to the Janelle King Show. I'm Janelle King. This is Extra 106.3, and this is where we discuss kitchen table topics that are typically banned from family gatherings, but are absolutely necessary in order to have a strong republic. And today's table topic, we're talking about Democrats that I'm watching that I think are preparing to run for office in 2026 and 2028. Many of them have already kind of shown public sentiment towards certain races. So, I'm just kind of giving my little 2 cents on it. And this is part one because we're going to follow up with part two with some more stuff. We have midterm elections coming up. It's actually coming up pretty quickly in 2026. Then another presidential election that will be here before we know it. And I'm afraid that the American people have stepped outside of our lanes a little bit and that we've handed our power over rather than being in control and rather than taking it seriously. So I want to take you on a little bit of a journey. Come with me to Philadelphia in the summer of 1787. We're all attending one of the most important conventions in this country's history. Delegates from different states, united by a common purpose, are all coming together. And what is that common purpose? To form a new government. It was here at Independence Hall that the phrase, "We the people," was born. It was a declaration of freedom. This powerful opening marked a beginning of a democracy that placed power in the hands of the citizens, moving away from the rule of monarchs or dictators. So all the delegates understood that they were igniting a revolution of thought and that we the people was a promise of liberty and justice. It was a commitment that power would derive from the governed and not the government. That it would come from the governed, not the government. So I want you to close your eyes and imagine Benjamin Franklin urging unity, knowing that a strong country is a unified country. I want you to think about George Washington, who saw the Constitution as a shield against tyranny. That we, the people, emphasizes the trust placed in every single citizen to uphold our democratic values. We, the people, it reminds us of our responsibility to engage in our republic. Each and every voice matters, and the participation is crucial to shaping our nation's future. So every time we go into the voting booth, every time we watch a debate, every time we hear a State of the Union address, I want you to think about those who fought for our freedoms, the brave men and women who stood for liberty and justice. Their sacrifices remind us that we, the people, represents more than just a phrase. It embodies our ongoing pursuit of a more perfect union. It reminds us that our participation in the electoral process is not a given. It is a hard-won privilege that requires our active engagement. Particularly as Republicans, we hold dear to the principles of limited government, personal liberty, and individual responsibility. It is our duty to elect leaders who embody these values, who will champion the rights and the aspirations of the American people. We, the people, have a responsibility to support candidates who prioritize honesty, integrity, and accountability. Officials who will stand firmly for our Constitution and the freedoms it guarantees. We must be vigilant in our role as American citizens. It is not enough to simply show up on election day. We must educate ourselves about the candidates. We must scrutinize their track records and understand their positions. We, the people, have the power to influence the course of our communities and our nation. But that power must be exercised wisely. So I urge you to take this responsibility to heart, starting with tracking who could possibly seek your vote. And this show is going to help you, because I'm going to break down who I'm hearing is seeking to run for office on the Democrat side. I'm going to give you my thoughts on their political future. Today, I'm going to focus on what's happening in DC and then drill it home a little bit to Georgia. And then the midterms in 2026, we're going to hit that in part 2. But we're going to get started right after the break. You're listening to The Janelle King Show. I'm Janelle King. This is Extra 106.3. We'll be right back. Thank you so much for joining the show. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you'll be notified every time I upload new content. Now back to the discussion. Welcome back to The Janelle King Show. I'm Janelle King. This is Extra 106.3, and this is where we discuss kitchen table topics that are typically banned from family gatherings but are absolutely necessary in order to have a strong republic. And today's kitchen table topic: Democrats I am watching because they are gearing up for 2026 and 2028 runs. And this is part 1 of this series that I'm doing. It's a 2-part series where I'm just kind of talking about those who I'm hearing, the rumblings that people are, starting to talk about as it relates to candidates who may be trying to come off the bench on the Democrat side in 2026 and 2028. As Republicans, we must elect people and leaders who stand for limited government, personal responsibility, and who have integrity. But we also need to know our opposition and who is planning to run against us. It's just not enough to simply vote. We must educate ourselves about candidates. We must scrutinize their positions. We must take it seriously. What am I talking about? I'm talking about our responsibility as we, the people. Before the break, we were in Philadelphia. We closed our eyes and we went back to Philadelphia, 1787. We thought about what took place when this government was formed. We put effort into thinking about this because it's important that we, the people, do our duty. So today, I will discuss some potential candidates for the upcoming elections in Georgia in 2026 and federally in 2028. By tracking these individuals now, I believe that this will place us in a position where we can flex our power as we, the people. Now, keeping in mind, this conversation is ever evolving. So by the time you hear this, there may be someone else that announced for the same role, and I just haven't gotten to them because I didn't know at the time. However, I'm just going to address those that I'm hearing about as of the time of this recording. And I'm sure we will revisit this topic more as time progresses. So let's just start with these federal races. So federal races refer to elections held to fill positions within the federal government of the United States. These elections typically involve 3 main types of positions. You have your U.S. Senate, you have the U.S. House of Representatives or Congress, and then you have your presidential elections. Federal races are crucial to determining the leadership and the legislative direction of our entire country. They involve elections from the highest levels of government, directly influencing federal policies, laws, and overall governance. So let's start with the legislative branch, and then we can go on to the executive branch, followed by local races. So Congress and Senate, that's what I mean when I talk about the legislative branch. They are legislating, they're creating policy. So let's start with Congress. So a congressperson who we all want to see go, including the Democrat Party, because every chance they get to embarrass her or show her in an embarrassing way, they take it. Who am I talking about? Your girl, Jasmine Crockett.
I had no criminal defense experience, and I walked in and I told my boss, Charlie, I said, listen, you should hire me. He said, why? I said, because I'm Black. Charlie looked at me like I was crazy.
It is not a criminal violation to enter the country illegally. It's not a criminal. It's a crime. It's not a crime, which is why they're so frustrated, because they really want our local law enforcement to go out and round up people when they could be looking out for the murderers the sexual abusers, as well as the robbers, they want them to go and round people up on civil accusations. And so that's why I wanted to point out, don't give me this fake outrage about criminals roaming our streets when you guys stand 10 toes down for the biggest criminal that we have ever seen go into the White House.
Period. I said, what is the crime? Because when you're talking about impeachment, you're talking about high crimes or misdemeanors. And I can't seem to find the crime. And honestly, no one has testified of what crime they believe the president of the United States has committed. I will tell you what the president has been guilty of. He has unfortunately been guilty of loving his child unconditionally, and that is the only evidence that they have brought forward. And honestly, I hope and pray that my parents love me half as much as he loves his child. Until they find some evidence, we need to get back to the people's work, which means keeping this government open so that people don't go hungry in the streets of the United States. And I will yield.
Yep. Yes, you heard that correctly. She said that Joe Biden is only guilty of loving his son. Shouldn't impeach him. That's what she said. But really, who is Jasmine Crockett? So let's talk about it. Jasmine Crockett is a Texas House of Representatives, representing districts 100 since 2020. She graduated from the University of Texas and Southern University Law Center. She's an attorney with a focus on civil rights and social justice. I have so much that I want to say about Jasmine, mostly about how she chooses to represent the subculture of our community rather than representing the true reflection of our community. I don't like how she behaves as if Black people who choose to live with respect and understanding that our capitalist society, and with the understanding of our capitalist society, I don't like that she embraces the notion that living a good life free of activism and a focus on racism is engaging in respectability politics. It's like as if we're not making racism the number one focus of our lives and not in complete activism and protest every 5 minutes, that somehow we're engaging in what they call respectability politics, which sounds absolutely ridiculous. It's basically telling Black people that you shouldn't be respectful, which is ignorant. But it also means it's okay to make excuses for bad behavior, which is another reason why I have a major issue with her. Why are you sending a complete community of people in the direction of making bad decisions, not having respect for themselves, but God forbid someone else doesn't have respect for them? Like it's already that's annoying. It's just extremely annoying and it's detrimental to the entire community. And she just harps on it. She loves it. She changes her tone whenever she's speaking on certain Black issues, but then when she goes and speaks to other nationalities, she sounds differently. I mean, it's so ignorant, if you ask me. But anyway, she has an opponent, thank God, who has more reasons as to why we need to toss Jasmine out. His name is Sheldon Daniels, and he is a North Texas native. And he grew up quite similar to my husband in a single-parent household with his mother, who was 19 when he was born, and his younger sister. He graduated with a political science degree from the University of Texas at Dallas and earned a law degree from Texas Southern University's Thurgood Marshall School of Law. He recently interviewed with my friend April Chapman, and I will drop the entire interview in the description box of this episode. However, I do want to share a few clips with you. I want you to hear about him before you hear about his thoughts on Jasmine Crockett. Take a listen.
When you talk about like how does the federal government affect your local community, we should have a system set up to where the worst ills in our society are drastically reduced, if not completely eradicated. So homelessness, crime, even petty crime, like breaking into your cars and petty theft, that stuff needs to go away. And what we face in TX30 under this Democratic leadership is failed schools. And we have children who look up to the worst of the examples of degeneracy as role models. We have children who glorify death culture. and worshiping everything that's going to end them up in a jail cell or in a grave before it'll provide them with an opportunity to raise and support a happy family. And so it's a cultural thing. Recidivism in incarceration rates in my district are crazy. I think we have 2 zip codes in our district that send more people to prison in the state of Texas than any other zip code in Texas. And so I'm invested in, making sure that these kids get life skills. And I want to see our education. I feel like our education system has wandered too far down this path of just trying to teach politics and social policy and trying to use our public school system to mold children to be more liberal. Whereas I think we need to really get away from the politics as far as trying to create sway. If anything, let's create a love for America, right? And let's tell the truth.
So now that you have an idea of who Shadon is, I want to call him Sheldon so bad, but I think it's Shodan. But now you have an idea of who he is as a candidate. I want you to hear his take on Miss Crockett.
Okay, so yes, the people of North Texas and the people of TX30 absolutely deserve more than what they're getting from Jasmine Crockett. But here's the deal about Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett didn't get elected based on any past show of successful results. She's never, ever been successful in any leadership role that she's ever had, ever. Okay? Before she came to Dallas County, and this is just now being uncovered, before she came to Dallas County, she was in Bowie County, Texas, which is a rural part of East Texas, right? And I don't know how she landed in Bowie County, right? Because I'm from Grayson County, not too far from Bowie County. I know what the people are like there, and how she ended up there, I don't know. But we will be investigating that as well. But she was appointed, or she talked her way into becoming the party chair for the Democratic Party out in Bowie County. Now, part of being the party chair is being able to organize the county, right? And get all the Democrats together and appoint precinct chair, all these things. Jasmine, her performance at just carrying out basic party chair duties was so abysmal, right? That they had to politely invite her to step down. So she got fired from her very first leadership job in politics at the county level. Then she pops up in Dallas County all of a sudden, and she's this Democrat Party darling. She's well funded, right? She's taking pictures with Soros. And, and now we're finding that all these so-called grassroots donations that she amassed over these past few years are actually not from people even in our district. The people who they are alleged to have come through don't even know about these donations. And so where did the money come from? Who's funding her? And does this explain why she's on Capitol Hill behaving this way? The word around D.C. right now is that even within the Democratic Party, Jasmine Crockett is kind of not taken very seriously as a legislator. She's not going to be able to get any laws passed. She's not going to be able to get anything done. And so the only thing she has left to do to be able to fundraise, to be able to keep her name out there, are these antics. And people recognize that, right? And we're educating voters of this, and the voters are becoming more sophisticated every day. And so this is what's helping to power my campaign.
I cannot tell you how refreshing it is to hear from someone who has an understanding of the needs of the people and isn't placing his personal opinions, his personal perspectives, his personal perceptions and traumas on those who he would be representing. Because that's what I feel like these people do. Like, they have their own personal stories. The moment you start talking about, oh, well, this is not happening in your district, they'll say things like, but it's happened to me. And I guess we're all supposed to care because we elected you to go and serve and sacrifice. But now we all have to bow down to you. But what I'm hoping is that they see that it's time to go in a different direction and not allow the R by his name to matter more than what he is saying. That is what I'm hoping happens in that district. I am rooting for him. I think that he sounds really good. He sounds strong. I don't know. We maybe make a donation. We'll see. We'll see. Moving to Georgia, we have a Senate race on the horizon. Jon Ossoff. So for those of you who do not live in Georgia, let me give you a little bit of background information on Mr. Ossoff. Ossoff is an investigative filmmaker who has served as the United States Senator from Georgia since 2021, January of 2021. He's 38 years old. He graduated from Georgetown University and earned a master's degree from London School of Economics. In 2017, he ran for Georgia's 6th congressional district, which he narrowly lost. In 2020, he ran for the U.S. Senate and won a runoff election in January 2021, becoming the youngest sitting senator. I'm gonna be honest, that was very weird to me, and I gotta keep it real with y'all. Like, I do not believe we the people. Now, obviously, there's speculation around the 2020 elections. I have my questions. I know, I really do have questions, but we could talk about that another day. But, however, my issue was that we had David Perdue, who was a certified, has the record to prove it, strong business leader who did a great job as senator. And we fired him to put in Ossoff, who was an investigative filmmaker. That's the extent of his career. I don't know. Maybe. All right. Anyway. So I really can speak to this race because I've seen this race from a different perspective. So in 2017, I was working on the RNC. I was working for the RNC doing field work, pretty much just like knocking on doors, making phone calls. We were working to keep Ossoff out of Congress and to send Karen Handel there instead. That did work. We won. We stopped him. Thank God. But I got to know a lot about Ossoff, and I always felt that he came off a bit as a fraud. And the reason why is because he carries himself like he represents the common man or he lives like a common life, but that's clearly not what's happening. Actually, it's completely untrue. Ossoff comes from a donor family that has a lot of influence. Ossoff called himself an independent investigator, but upon further research, I realized that he left out some valuable information. And according to the Washington Beacon, Ossoff used his family inheritance to purchase control of a foreign film company that he would now own. His father footed the bill for his residence in Washington, D.C. while he was working as a congressional aide before he landed a job as a legislative assistant under Representative Hank Johnson, which is, a Democrat here in Georgia. After he lost in 2017, just months later, Ossoff's father, Richard Ossoff, purchased a home in D.C. for almost $520,000 through a company he formed in July of 2009. Ossoff, whose legal first name is Thomas, guys, not John, it's Thomas, listed the home as his mailing address while donating to former President Barack Obama's campaign in March of 2012. So first of all, I have a problem with him not using his real name because now we can't really do adequate research because you could just put everything in your legal name and then you tell us your name is John. But anyway, let's moving on. The home is now estimated to be worth more than $780,000 according to his DC property record, which lists Richard Ossoff's company as the current owner. Richard is John, aka Thomas Ossoff's father. Ossoff then ran to unseat Republican Senator David Perdue, although Richard Ossoff's company, Stratford Publications, has partnered with a number of major corporate law firms. Let's not forget, Ossoff campaigned against Perdue, tying him to corporate America, painting a picture that Perdue is somehow out of touch when in fact Perdue has built his career through hard work, something Ossoff did not do at that time. He was pledging to end the corruption that rigs the system against ordinary people. That's what Ossoff was saying. I bet he wasn't talking about his dad, or maybe he didn't think he was talking about his dad. But anyway, this was after his dad started facing criticism for his financial ties, who has contributed thousands of dollars to his campaign, yet his company, Richard Ossoff Company, Stratford Publications, in July took a Paycheck Protection Program loan, a PPP loan, as much as $1 million. The revelation came just months after Ossoff ripped the government for overwhelmingly benefiting wealthy Americans, like his father, everybody. I'm so tired of these trust fund babies reeling against their parents as if they had some hard life that's just so traumatic and traumatizing. So now, instead of you living like the person that you have to go save, you want to run for office to go save everybody with the current status and the current wealth that you've always had. That's what I think annoys me about these trust fund kids that are always complaining. They want to live a life that's seemingly, in their words, authentic. However, they don't want to do it broke. They do not want to do it broke. Again, I got to go save everybody else, but I want to do it from the comfort of my beautiful home and my comfortability. So I guess he was coming in to help us all. Kind of like a savior. I think Jon Ossoff carries himself like he's a savior. I really do. But anyway, I just struggle with finding more ways to express the importance in doing your own research. Ossoff studied Obama down to his countenance and his tone. He comes off as this likable and unassuming person, but I don't know which is worse. Warnock, who puts his crazy in your face, or Ossoff, who masquerades like something else while hiding his crazy. But you be the judge. This is what you are supposed to do. Moving on. 2028. Let's go to the presidential race. 2028. So no matter how hard Black women try, 2028 will be the year of the white male on the Dem ticket once again. I truly believe that. The two front runners who I'm hearing the most about are Governor Gavin Newsom. Surprise, surprise. Okay, where's that meme when you need it? Anyway. And Governor Josh Shapiro. I know there are others who are being speculated to run the Democrat side, such as Governor Gretchen Whitmer and even Kamala Harris. But anyway, she may come back, guys. But after the stunt they pulled, I would honestly be surprised if Kamala gets elected as dog catcher, because she's going to have a lot of questions to answer, and I just don't see her answering them. And they're going to be like, oh my God, it's the same thing happening all over again. Once again, we can never talk about the major issues with you. So anyway, so we're going to talk about Gavin and Josh for this show. And if things change, I will adjust in the future. But this is just where I am today. So these two are interesting to me because I feel like it's the battle of the spin doctor. But I have to give Gavin the crown as being king of the spin. However, Gavin has a huge elephant in the room. Or I should say, it's a big mountain that he's going to have to climb if he thinks anyone's going to look at him for president.
We're here in Southern California to meet some of the people who lost their homes in last month's wildfires and to find out what they're going to be doing next. We'll also ask them what they make of their governor, Gavin Newsom, and the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass. They've both been accused of failing to prepare for the costliest fires in LA's history.
There's nothing left in your neighborhood anymore. You're the last house.
All these were shops owned and operated by family business owners. This is my Starbucks right here.
Oh my God! The fire was all the way around us. I didn't know what to do.
My dad came and he said our house burned down.
People are calling it a natural disaster. I call it an unnatural disaster.
I lost my home. My kids lost their schools. I lost my business. All in one day.
That breaking news, a fast-moving fire in Los Angeles County.
Apocalyptic scenes, tens of thousands on the run.
Karen Bass, the worst, most incompetent mayor in LA's history.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor?
The governor has not done a good job.
To have this level, the acuity of fires is without precedent. These winds are without precedent.
The wildfires started on January the 7th and burned for about 3 weeks before being brought under control. But by that time, around 18,000 homes, schools and businesses were burned to the ground, and at least 29 people had lost their lives.
So the clip you just saw came from Matthew with TRT News, which is based out of Turkey. I've been a guest on their show several times, and I recommend you watching the show. I have a link in the description box to that full show. But Gavin Newsom is an American politician, a businessman who has served as governor of California since January of 2019. He's a San Francisco native, not surprised there at all. He graduated from Santa Clara University with a degree in political science, not surprised about that either. Newsom began his political career as a member of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors in 1997 and became the city's mayor in 2004, where he was recognized for his progressive policies, including supporting same-sex marriage after serving as mayor until 2021. Newsom was elected lieutenant governor of California in 2010. In 2018, he won the gubernatorial election. Today, Gavin is the front runner for the Democratic presidential nomination that is set to take place in 2028. So why is Gavin on my radar? He's on my radar not because of the reasons of others, but because I see his game as a dangerous one. He plays a very dangerous game. So I've been on this mission to aid in restoring confidence in voters, because as voters, over time, I feel that we have become comfortable with allowing others to lead, others to pick the candidates for us, to place them in front of us, and to basically tell us that they are suitable. But that is a right that is supposed to be reserved for us, voters, Americans, we the people, not the responsibility of those we elect to represent us. That being said, I clearly see Gavin using the same tactics that got us here in the first place: manipulation and the art of the spin, which refers to the practice of presenting information, facts, or events in a way that influences public perception and shapes the narrative to favor a particular agenda or some type of viewpoint. It involves carefully crafting these messages and framing issues to highlight positive aspects or downplay negative ones, often using persuasive language and selective emphasis to sway public opinion. And let me tell you, Gavin Newsom is one of the best. Gavin will take an hour to say absolutely nothing. Do I think that he will get out of the primary? Yes, I do think he would beat Josh Shapiro, simply because I think people are on the Democrat side are going to be a little gun shy, and I think they're going to go with what they feel is the best shot that they can have. But do I think that he would beat the Republican in the general? Maybe. It really depends on how independents feel about the Trump administration in 2028. You know, as of a week ago, Trump's approval rating and disapproval ratings among independents show that 68% disapprove and 32% approve of what he's doing. And if that continues, and he, meaning Gavin Newsom, may have a shot, and that's a bit concerning to me. I mean, as voters, we must stay vigilant and not be swayed by fancy conversation or shapeshifters, which are the candidates who change every time they're in a different room. Their message seems to change every time they are going along with certain policy positions. And then if there are others that are not, then they switch too. I'm highlighting these people because it means that we have got to be more vigilant than we've ever been before. Because if not, we're going to be getting spun around in circles thinking that we're heading in some direction, and then we're really heading in the wrong direction. Another person who I'm hearing will run for president on the Democrat side is Governor Josh Shapiro. Shapiro is the governor of Pennsylvania he's been the governor of Pennsylvania since 2023. He's from Kansas City, Missouri. He graduated from the University of Rochester and earned a law degree from Georgetown University Law Center. His political career began in 2005 as a member of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, followed by his election as Montgomery County Commissioner in 2012. In 2017, he was elected Attorney General, where he focused on gun violence prevention, consumer protection, and civil rights. You may not have known, but if you remember, or you may remember, that Josh Shapiro was one of the people that was being considered to be Kamala Harris' VP. But you're not going to believe why he wasn't selected, or maybe you will. Because the rumor is that he wasn't selected because he was Jewish. Oh no! The party of inclusiveness, the party that was willing to welcome the first gay president, Pete Buttigieg, the party that selected Kamala Harris to be vice president simply because she's a woman and she's black. Well, at least she kind of looks like one, a black woman, but we know that's all up in the air too. Anyway, that same party rejected Josh Shapiro because he was Jewish. And the base at the time was not happy with Jews or Jewish people. I really am confused about any Jewish person that's still a part of the Democrat Party. I mean, the Democrat Party has been so disrespectful to Jewish people. But anyway, I mean, this is a party that believes Israel has the right to defend itself, but not too much. You can't defend yourself too much. And although Hamas uses women and children as human shields and build tunnels under hospitals and schools, the American progressive thinks that Israel should figure out a way to tell Hamas soldiers from civilians while they're wearing civilian clothing. It just doesn't make sense. But yes, Josh was discriminated against by his own party, yet he remains committed and is a strong possibility that may run in 2028. So Shapiro is one to watch. I don't see him coming out of the primary unless he figures out a way to neutralize the liberal crazies and American Hamas supporters. But we'll see. We will see. After the break, I am going to finalize with one more person that I can see on the 2028 roster, Democrat roster, to run for president. And I've talked about him before, but we'll talk about it after the break. Don't leave the table. You're listening to the Janelle King Show. I'm Janelle King. This is Extra 106.3. We'll be right back. Thank you so much for joining the show. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you'll be notified every time I upload new content. Now back to the discussion. This is the Janelle King Show right here on Extra 106.3, where we discuss kitchen table topics that are typically banned from family gatherings, but are absolutely necessary in order to have a strong republic. And if you're joining us for the first time, don't worry. You can catch an encore episode tomorrow at 9 a.m. right here on Extra 106.3. And remember, our podcast drops every Tuesday wherever you get your podcast. And if you're feeling eager, you can watch the video podcast right now on YouTube. Just remember to subscribe to our YouTube and Rumble pages, and your likes, comments, and shares are always welcomed. Now grab a seat and let's get back to the table. That's right. This is the Janelle King Show. Welcome back. This is Extra 106.3, and this is where we discuss kitchen table topics that are typically banned from family gatherings, but are absolutely necessary in order to have a strong republic. And today's kitchen table topic are Democrats to watch in 2026 and 2028. And I want to close this segment with one last person that I'm watching who may be running for president in 2028. It's Governor Wes Moore. Governor Wes Moore is the governor of Maryland. He's been the governor since 2023. He's from Washington, D.C. He graduated from Johns Hopkins University, where he earned a Bachelor's of Arts and later received a master's degree from Oxford University as a Rhodes Scholar. Wes Moore served as an officer in the United States Army and later became an author and entrepreneur. Before becoming governor, he served as CEO of the Robin Hood Foundation, which was a nonprofit dedicated to fighting poverty in New York City. He also held several roles in government service and community advocacy. In other words, he was just a community activist, like Obama, but okay. He has been on my radar for a while now because he was also considered, or at least mentioned in the media, as a VP option for Kamala Harris. But I thought that he was going to be who they swapped Biden out with, because they started bringing him to the surface. And I was wondering if they were preparing us or trying to test him out. But if that would have happened, if Kamala would have picked him to be vice president, I think she would be president right now. I really do. Because Governor Wes Moore is a Class A politician. He's Barack Obama in a different body. This guy plays with empathy and compassion as if it's a piece on his chessboard. And it causes him to come off as very performative, almost like he's like cosplaying. And cosplaying, for those of you who have not heard that term, it's costume playing. So it's almost like he's wearing the costume of a politician. And it really makes me think that he's completely inauthentic and disingenuous. Like, I don't really know if I believe him. But there are some things working in his favor. He's a Democrat, he's a black male, and that could work for him. But nonetheless, the progressive feminists move past calling straight men cisgendered. But if they can find a way to support a man, finally, then I certainly think it will help that he's black. And I feel like that's probably the only type of man that I see the Democrats supporting at this point, particularly the progressives, are black men, because God knows white men. I'm so sorry. I know you're listening. I know you are. And yeah, the Democrat Party is just not a fan of you guys. Crazy. The midterms will be telling. I believe it's going to be majorly telling. I also believe that the presidential race is going to be telling. But I also wanted to close the show with a quick little message to voters, to you. When we have an aging electorate, we run into a challenge because so many of our younger voters are just not involved, or they're minimally involved, or they're simply TikTok involved, or they're relying purely on pundits and propaganda, thinking it's true information. And that severely concerns me. It concerns me because I feel like we're going to have an electorate who are emotional and lacking informed thought. And that happens when you decrease the importance of history, especially American history. Or we have older people who assume younger people have the same knowledge as they have. For example, I was talking to someone recently and she mentioned something that happened in 1994 as if I had the knowledge of the political moves that was taking place in 1994. And I just laughed a little bit and I reminded her that I was 10 years old in 1994 and that I'll be 41 this year. Imagine a 21-year-old voter today. We're in a peculiar space. And I find challenges on both sides. I find older voters who think that the younger voters are irrelevant and dismissive of their viewpoints. And on the other hand, I find younger voters who have no idea what was tried in the past or happened to cause things to be a certain way. And they act as if the past has no relevance or no responsibility towards the future. So that leads me to the common problem that I see over and over again. And I feel like it's that we have an uneducated voter and an uneducated electorate. And I'm not talking about people who didn't go to college, which I think is so dumb when we say that you're uneducated because you didn't go to college. That's just so stupid. I'm talking about people who are very educated on the issues that they like or they dislike, but the why is limited to present data. We have allowed others to come in and remove the patriotism from our youth. There doesn't seem to be a love for our country. So until we start being informed and being an informed electorate on all the issues, that is not only informed on current issues, but also the original intent of decisions going back to the formation of our country, along with understanding what works and what does not work and what hasn't worked in other countries. Ultimately, we all must understand that there isn't another place on earth that affords us the opportunities available in America. We must protect it with our votes, starting with understanding every single candidate on the ballot. So whether the Democrat Party is still controlled by the fringe or, the wild feminists who believe all men are evil, only time will tell. But we have a duty. Until next week, when the discussion continues and we tackle the midterms, I want you to stay unafraid, stay unapologetic, and never stop seeking the truth. I'll see you next week.